Let's go.
Welcome to the Soul Fam Podcast, where we expand your personal universe. I'm Diana Marquetta, and in each episode, Soul Fam co-founder, co-creator Lexi Strummer-Solden and I interview the world's most rising and longtime experts in consciousness, spirituality, entertainment, healing, and science. From Earth's dimensions and dimensions way, way beyond. On the Soul Fam Podcast, our frequencies are high and your heart chakras will open as these powerful voices of today share cutting-edge research, profound experiences, and valuable knowledge for your world in this out-of-this-world, thought-provoking, envelope-pushing interviews that could only take place right here on the Soul Fam Podcast. Welcome to the Soul Fam Podcast. I'm Diana Marquetta, host of the Soul Fam Podcast. Today, we have an amazing repeat guest, Ixte, who has been on this podcast since the very beginning. When we very first started in audio, she's grown so much and has a whole new client base, has a whole new presence, both in person and on the internet. And so I asked her to come back because she's really focusing on a new aspect of her work that I feel like the Soul Fam Podcast audience can really relate to and gather strength and encouragement and enlightenment to their own selves through her work. So welcome, Ixte, and thank you for coming on the podcast today on the new moon in Cancer.
Oh my gosh, so exciting. I'm really excited to be here, honestly, and I know we've had conversations in the past, and this topic is something, again, passionate about. There's so many things I'm passionate about, but I think it's also about the learning between you and I and the audience, just exploring ourselves deeper. So thanks for having me back.
Yeah, there's been so much that's changed. When I really think back to the last 3 years that since we very first talked, there's been so much expansion in our audience, in understanding awakening and understanding ourselves from a spiritual place, from an energetic space, and being willing to look at things maybe we weren't willing to look at before. You've developed a methodology and a terminology, which I think we can really relate to, about highly sensitive people. And I sure know a lot of people that could fall into that category, do fall into that category, and can really learn from this and understand ourselves better, and learn how to sort of deal in a more constructive way. Is that about right?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you've mentioned. I think it's always good to see if we can relate to something, or at the very least have come across others who have these specific traits that I'm going to go deeper in, right? Just even in my own journey, it was just, now that I know I have a name to my own experience, I then can also see how that lives in my family members, or how it does not. So the awareness itself. So yeah, I mean, I have to agree with everything that you've mentioned. I think it's important. And I think we are on a collective level, because information is moving so quickly from person to person and is so accessible, that our consciousness is really moving so fast, even with I wouldn't say against our will, but almost, right? It's like, oh, I didn't even know I needed to know that. Or someone else is talking about a specific topic now that I had no idea. And it's just getting to us so much quicker. And the collective unconscious is now moving and leveling up. Therefore, what we think we're not, our consciousness is not in... how can I say, like the will. So actually, let me move back a little bit. It's like,
Okay.
when we say we're using our will,
Mm-hmm.
that is in relation to our consciousness, what we are aware of, what we're saying yes or no to. But the collective unconscious is something that moves without that. It doesn't need that to move. So the collective unconscious is rising. Therefore, now our consciousness has no other choice but to follow.
Exactly. So I'm curious just what you think. Are we following that? Are we following that? Are we consciously following that? Or are we unconsciously following that? Or are some of us unconsciously following it and thereby raising our vibration or our frequency or becoming more attuned with the difference between will and evolution? What's your overall feeling about that?
So the collective unconscious is moving, whether we agree with it or whether we're
Mhm.
aware of it or not. And I think that it's true that we're all on different, lack of a better term, level,
Mhm.
right? Our
Mhm.
consciousness is in a different level, and we can either jump on the wave with a surfboard or whatever other tool we may use to make us move more smoothly or in unison with this wave, or we can be part of the resistance. And I think that's where a lot of our illnesses kind of come about, when we are in resistance to where the wave is moving. So I think that there is truly a mix amongst our communities. And so the wave will move regardless if we're moving along or not. It's about how we're responding and whether we're willing to move with the change. And that will really tell us the impact. Regardless of your choosing, it's going to happen.
That I think that's a really interesting observation and absolutely true. Just even on an energetic level to understand what's happening on the planet, whether it's solar flares or energetic waves we're shifting as a planet, we're shifting as a universe. It's going to affect us, humans, animals, the environment. So it's interesting perspective, whether you resist that or just kind of go with the flow.
Correct. And I
What are
think,
you finding in your clients?
oh, that's a really good question. And my clients, well, I mean, I believe my clients are part of the group that are ready to move with the wave.
Mm-hmm.
They probably have had resistance to the wave or unconsciously resistant because our culture and our society is built to be against the wave.
Right.
So,
That's true.
patriarchal system, the Gregorian calendar in itself is moving in a way that is in resistant to the cycles, the natural cycles of the earth and how we're innately meant to operate. And that moves through all the ways of how we see things, how we choose things, how we prioritize, what our values are, is based on the culture that we're abiding to or living in,
Mm-hmm.
especially when we're unconscious to what's happening within us. So if we're unconscious to what's happening within us, which is perhaps not totally on board with where the Gregorian calendar may tell us things are,
Uh-huh.
right? Then we're going to find that we're bumping into like walls or obstacles that wouldn't really be there had we been moving with a specific cycle, right? That's why the moon is such an important thing to really know where that is. Farmers have used the moon to really decide when to move agriculturally, or even just communities. What are we doing now? Are we moving inside? Are we moving outside? So my clients are really saying something's wrong here. And I keep bumping up against some resistance against what I am feeling inside. So my clients are ready to make a change. They just don't know where to start.
Right.
They're like, I just don't know. I'm finding such difficulty even in my one-on-one relationships within my family, my job, yes, but it is in relationship. And it, of course, we know, or most of us know, that it really does begin inside. And for highly sensitive people, I find that that is just like music to their ears to know that it begins within, because that's all we are. Well, not all, but it's mostly where we live. Our internal world is so rich. It is so rich and so alive that to hear the words of like, well, no, there is really valid and sacred and very important information that already resides within you.
Yes, indeed. So let's jump into all of that, because obviously if you're here in this corner at the Soul Fam podcast, you probably are a highly sensitive person. You're at least highly curious. So I feel like you've really sort of gotten into an area that is much needed to explore. And I feel like our generations are changing as well. And perhaps we'll talk about this. The children being born now are extremely highly sensitive. That's my feeling in general. And as we peel back the layers of ourselves, I bet we find out we're all pretty highly sensitive.
Is that a question?
Yes.
I'm like, okay, because
I want to know how you determined this.
Well, okay. So how do we identify as highly sensitive people? Yeah. Well, I have to give credit to the individual who coined the term highly sensitive person, who is Elaine Aron. She's a psychologist, and she's the one who has really started the research, who's also a highly sensitive person herself. And she started the research back in 1990. And since then, she's really been putting that term out there to help therapists and psychologists really understand how highly sensitive people really function. And I think that there is really, I don't know, epidemic within psychology that says that pathologizes HSPs when really it's not something to pathologize. It's not something to fix. There's not something wrong with us. Okay.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. There is nothing wrong with you, highly sensitive person. That's like so important to know, because the structure, the foundation that we're moving through in society and culture isn't really built for us. So it can feel like something is wrong with us. So to go back to your question about how do you find out if you are, Elaine Aron and I, you can look for her online, but my website has a HSP checklist that I welcome anyone to go to and really go and see how many of these traits they can identify with. And there's some guidance there. If you have a certain percentile or a certain amount, you can say, I'm a highly sensitive person. It's not a diagnosis. So first of all, but it is something that can help you kind of really understand that there's something else and something deeper within you, that your neurological pathways are built differently than most people. And I do want to say this. Study is still moving through, and I still feel as though the original data that says about 20 to 25 people, 20 to 25% of the population is highly sensitive, but they're starting to move into about 30%, saying 30% of the population. But in my own experience, I still feel like we're in the 20 to 25, because I don't really bump into individuals that often that identify just as I do. But, that's my own experience. And so I think that's a really good place to start. Another thing I would say is Elaine Aron has an acronym, DOES, that says, okay, if you have depth of processing, that's what D is for. Overstimulation is O. E, which is emotional sensory. And then S is sensitivity to really environment. So those are really like the 4 buckets that we can really start to look and say, yeah, do I have depth of processing? That's something that I just deeply relate to, because I am constantly processing everything of every moment. Right now I'm in conversation with you, and there's so much more that I'm taking in. The way you're physically moving, facial expressions, the energy of the room, color, lighting, temperature, my own heart rate, everything is happening. I can take notice of how I'm breathing, the thoughts in my mind. It's always, constantly. And it'll take me about 5 days after this conversation to fully integrate and process what I've just done in this last, let's just say, the hour of the conversation.
I understand
And
that.
it's not just it's not just processing you, Deanna. It's processing me. What did I do? What did I say? What did I feel in that moment? And constantly filtering through. So I'm going to just pause there. I feel like I've said a pretty good juicy amount of things, but that's, I think, a really good place to start is DOES, or this checklist that I invite everyone to go and explore to see, am I a highly sensitive person, and how much am I a highly sensitive person?
I don't think you said too much. I think we can all relate to that. And I would agree with that. And I get into these podcasts, or I get into these interviews, and I'm like, whoa, what just happened? Where were we? And it literally takes me a little while afterwards to go, okay, I'm back on the ground, back on the ground. But let's go through your checklist, because you created your own checklist. I think it's pretty genius. I took a healthy look at it. And we all love to do quizzes. I'm like, well, who am I? I mean, we're at this brink where we're really trying to discover ourselves. Amen. And as consciousness moves, we want to understand, why is this thing that I used to do not working anymore at all? So we're, out of frustration, if nothing else, we want to grow, we want to change, we want to resolve the interior conflicts so we can express ourselves, feel a better life, experience this gift to its fullest, I'd like to think.
Yeah. How do we go through the checklist? What do you think?
I don't know. You tell me. I mean, is it 10 points? I can't recall. Is it?
There are about 12 checked off out of approximately 20 or 22 boxes that will tell you, okay, I'm a highly sensitive. I think it is 20. So 12 of those 20 will say, okay, most likely highly sensitive person. But working with me one-on-one will help us go even deeper and unraveling in what depths. So I can go through each one by one if you'd like, but that might take a lot.
Yeah. Let's do like a good handful. Like, let's just throw
I'm going to list a handful of them. Yeah. Okay. So I am aware of subtleties in my environment. Yes. And for me, it's like when I was working a corporate job, and I have responsibilities still that have me go into a corporate environment even now. And I can sense everything and everyone. I could sense the mood of the room. I could sense the mood of the people that I interact with. And I even find myself kind of checking in. Hey, are you okay?
Right.
Which is not always good. It's not always good to do that for me as a highly sensitive person, because we tend to absorb other people's energy.
Right.
So, we may get into that in a moment about boundaries, but that lies into the boundary level of things. So, okay, so that's an example. I'm easily affected by people's mood, right? Just as mentioned. I'm easily affected by things like bright lights, strong smells, fabrics, or loud noises. Very true, especially if my nervous system is already on the fritz and I go into a event, a music concert. I need to make sure if I have the capacity to be able to withstand that stimulation. So there's that. I have a rich, complex inner life, 100%. I just the other night was like, oh my God, I just want to stop having conversation with myself. It feels that way inside. Like I don't even want to hear my own thoughts, or I don't want to integrate any further because it becomes a very overwhelming experience.
Right.
I just want a break. So that is a sense of overwhelm. And I know because I'm really putting myself out there more often lately, that is going to happen. I know that I'm going to be bumping into that space of a lot of integration and processing, and also, we tend to have a lot of negative self-talk. So that is also alive within. I'm not saying all HSPs, but it is common. Okay, I'm conscientious.
Why is that? I want to back up on that. Why is that?
Yeah,
do you feel that HSPs especially have a lot of negative self-talk? I mean, and there's a lot of talk about how we talk to ourselves. But why is it that highly sensitive people really have this strong tendency, from what I've seen, what I've experienced, to have a very hard time breaking that negative, I'm this, I'm that, or, oh, it's whatever, it's going to go to heck. I don't know. All those things, like, it's really hard to break that.
Yeah, so I think I want to say this is that, so not all highly sensitive people will have necessarily negative self-talk. But it's common, very common. And I want to say that because this is the other statement I'm going to say that's important, is that not all highly sensitive people are introverted. So there are extroverted, highly sensitive people. That does exist. And they have their own friction and own battles of, probably being the one that can be out there and then having to come back and so they're extending themselves even further in community and interaction with other people, and then having to come back and say, okay, how can I balance the two? Because part of my personality is that I'm out there. And HSP, highly sensitive people, is a personality trait. I want to also say that. It's a personality trait. It's not something that we're diagnosing, fixing. Right. Again, I will say again, it is not that. So it's a trait.
Right.
So it is part of who we are. So I wanted to say that. But then there are a good group of people that are introverted, highly sensitive people. I would like to say that I am that person. Right. I am introverted. But there's also so many other things about me, and we can get into another topic of astrology and things like that. But I know that there's also a purpose of me having to put myself out there. And there's a lot of people that are podcasters who are introverted and totally out there and talking, but it's because we know how to carve out the time, have to check in to see, do I have the capacity to put myself out there? And do I have the recovery time afterwards to really take care of that integration and processing?
Yeah.
So I'm sure they've gone through their own battles, right? So, okay, so let's go back to the negative self-talk. And that's why I think ancestral healing is still so important for the highly sensitive person. Because ancestry is influenced by, we're going to go back to culture, society, and the structure that we move in. So it has to do with environment. It starts at home. It starts with when we start interacting with the rest of the world. The world is not built to nurture the highly sensitive, not as it exists today. Right. It's not built to nurture us. It's meant to either you fit in this box or you don't belong. At least that's what it feels like, even though people may not say that directly. So as a child, I can speak from my own experience. My parents didn't know what to do with me. My mom especially, because she was mostly a single mother. She didn't know what to do, even though I think she was a highly sensitive person herself. She didn't know that either, though. She was highly psychic and probably very sensitive. And I was highly sensitive, and my siblings were not necessarily, although, I think my sister is probably going through her own discovery about certain things, but, and we're seeing things hindsight, but it was always about, don't do that, or you know what, she can't go to this event, or you know what, she needs extra care. And it always felt like there was something wrong with me.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
or if I cried about something, or, you know, my father was a disciplinary, you know, I grew up in a traumatic upbringing. Okay. So, you know, my father was a disciplinary. And so there's the trauma around those experiences. And at the same time, he didn't like that I would call things out. Very young child, but I could read. I could read the room. I could read his intention. I could read what he was thinking. I could read just straight through all of it. And it really was unpleasant for him to see me as a mirror. And I think a lot of highly sensitive people have this gift of being mirrors because we can see beyond. We can see beyond the words. We can feel beyond the words. We know more about something not matching. You're saying this, but the frequency that's coming out of that is not matching that frequency. And it becomes really confusing. Right. So I want to circle back to the question, why is it? It has to do with environment. Highly sensitive people can really thrive if they have the right environment, which I think is really my mission with what I'm doing and building community, is that my classes, my workshops, my healing sessions, my one-on-ones are all built to have highly sensitive people thrive. The pacing matters. We're not in a rush to go from one thing to another. Every experience is rich in itself, and I create space for that to occur. So why is it difficult? Because we're highly sensitive, we're more prone to traumatic-like experiences, meaning one thing may not be so traumatic to one person, but would be for us. Right? A specific frequency, something someone has said, someone has done, even just throwing something against the wall or observing something. There's still a trauma response that's happening. So what that means is our nervous system is really holding on to some form of memory of those experiences and over time, which means it's kind of like braille that has been encoded in our system, right? So you know, trauma doesn't go away. You know, it doesn't. Right. But what can change is our relationship to it. So the negative self-talk, I'm not going to say, we're going to just make it go away. No, but we can really tend to our relationship to that narrative, that dialogue that's happening within us. And that's part of the coaching process that I go through is actually, we work through the pie of things. Pie meaning there's different pieces of a pie that a highly sensitive person struggles with, different areas. And one of them is parts. And you may have heard this maybe through psychology or therapy, but in my method, it includes parts. Parts is really, let's get into that. Parts is our soul fragmented. Okay. So it's really interesting because in shamanic or medicine, women, men, like old indigenous cultures, or even now you may hear soul retrieval in certain circles, right? Absolutely. It's a similar idea, very similar idea. Parts is that. And in fairy tradition, also what I'm finding, so this is where the overlap of spirituality and like this HSP journey of healing and coming back is very spiritual, because we understand that we come whole into this world. Our soul comes whole, and as we move through the world, beginning at home, we begin to fragment, break apart. Okay.
But why?
Meaning, let's just say for boys, you can't be emotional because there's highly sensitive men. You can't be emotional. You can't do that. You need to toughen up. Well, guess what? That has created a fracture. That has broken something within our wholeness. And therefore, now there's a narrative that says there's something wrong with me. are now broken up into piece. This is one piece, and then maybe a friend might say something else, or a certain experience or dynamic has told me that there's something wrong in how I came into this world. And so we break, and this could be trauma, or this could be just how schooling, if we could just talk about school and the structure of academics and education, that in itself fragments us.
Right.
Absolutely. Because just simply sometimes we're with information is withheld from us about true history, what's really happened. So guess what? We're being told one thing, but then we're seeing something else within our community.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think intuitively we know something's different.
Something's not adding up.
People, you just, you're like, I don't know if that's really true.
Really? Yeah. So, Thanksgiving in itself, right? That's interesting. We sit at the table together, yet we seem to not be sitting in the table from one down to the other, or certain areas of the city. So that causes fraction within our soul, right? There says, oh, I can't really be fully myself, or there's something that I came into this world as whole, and now I need to break it or compartmentalize it or hide it. And that creates fractures, that creates breakage. So in parts work, we're identifying the different parts that have broken apart, and we begin to bring them back into wholeness. And those parts really do exist in the dialogue, in the conversation, in the negative self-talk. That is part of the work. When I do one-on-one, we need to bring that into conversation. We need to really explore those things. We need to be the safety that we did not have.
That's fascinating. I actually had somebody else last week say exactly the same thing, that we have to be the love that we never had, that the love comes within ourselves.
And I'm going to say this too. Highly sensitive people have existed from the beginning of time. This isn't new. But if we go back to indigenous times, we were the medicine people. We were the ones that were actually consulted before we went into war or battle or migration. We were part of conversation. We needed to be considered. Well, what are you feeling? What do we think? Because I could be a strategist. There's people in our community that are strategists. There are those people that are meant to be warriors in the front lines. And then there's those of us as highly sensitive that might do that, but may not do it as often, or to take care of themselves should probably not, right? Come back, retreat, so on and so forth. But someone like me, I am the one that is here to have these conversations, ready to have people come back to themselves so that they can go back out there and do what they're meant to do.
Right.
And there's people just like us that existed and were nurtured, held, and revered, really honored, saying you have a place at the table of discussing where our community is going to move, what we need. And that's why I think this work is so important for highly sensitive people. We need to really reclaim that sensitivity and define it for really what it is: sacred power.
Exactly. I think that's fascinating, especially considering what's happening on the planet right this second, that there hasn't been a consultation as to really what's best, and where does our real power lie, and where is the wisdom in all of this. It's often things seem to be moving very quickly, and there isn't a moment of consideration for all of that.
Yes.
Fascinating.
And it's also interesting. It's like, well, change is going to happen. I mean, change is here. Right? Change is here. And to just talk about like the new moon in Cancer that just happened, and we're still in like that energy field. It's a new moon in Cancer, and at the same time, Jupiter's in that space and the sun. And okay, I'm not like an astrologer, so please take this at, face value. But
You have a lot
it
of
was,
knowledge, though. You
I
do.
do have, yes, I
Yes.
do. And at the moment of new moon and the day before, it was squaring Saturn and Neptune in Aries.
Oh.
Okay.
Is that a Cazimi?
So, well, the sun and the moon, I'm sorry, the sun and Jupiter. So Jupiter and the sun were aligned with one another, and that is the Cazimi.
Ah.
Okay. So the Jupiter was at the heart center of the sun. And that was on the 24th. But you might have been feeling really emotional. Cancer is, yes, emotions, but it's also like the gateway to emotional intelligence. It's also ancestry. It's very underworld. And Saturn is death. It's limitation, boundaries, but it's the great teacher. And these two things really speaking to one another is we might have been encountering patterns, revisiting trauma, thinking about family, thinking about home, thinking about safety and what that really means. But we're here on the new moon of Cancer to say, what seed do I want to plant that is being nurtured by my emotions and the intelligence behind them? So it's not about, oh, I'm going to ignore what's happening. It's more like, let's welcome what's happening in the room, because we need to be really aware of how we feel about it. And that feeling is really, when we're talking about manifestation, it's all about the feeling. It's emotional intelligence. And yes, there's anger, but we need to go a little deeper. Anger is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more. And when we get under and deeper, and we get to the core of whatever wound is happening, whatever feeling we're experiencing, then we can say, okay, this is what is happening now. What kind of change do I want to plant and manifest in the next 6 months and beyond? Because Saturn is involved. This is long term. This is really about what are the intentional steps I'm taking to create the world I really want? Who can I be? Who can I become with emotional intelligence to create something new, create a new way of safety? Highly sensitive people, this is your new moon.
Interesting. Really?
That's what I think.
Excited.
I really think. I think so. Because we get to really be the ones to be like, oh, our emotions really do matter here.
Right.
We're the ones that have the emotional intelligence because we're in it all the time.
And emotions do matter.
They do matter. Every day. All the time.
It's fascinating. In meeting with your clients this week, have they really been feeling that? Have you noticed it?
I have, yes. That's really funny. You mentioned that. Yes. So I'm going to just use an example. I don't want to give too many details because I want to respect their privacy, but it was really about, my clients are on this path of discovery. They're ready to be like, okay, I'm going to look at what I'm feeling and why I feel it. Mm-hmm. And my clients have been feeling like, oh my God, everything that I've really suppressed over the years is really now overpouring. And I now feel more anxious. I'm feeling as though I can't really breathe. Right. What do I do with this information? And that is also part of the practice, right? Is really learning, like, what do I do? Now, I'm all about just being.
Right.
It's really about let's be with it and let's converse with that emotion without trying to fix it. The fixing is coming from an ego and a pattern, and that pattern really hasn't served us necessarily. Maybe to survive, but in this moment of change and wanting to do something different, we may consider it, but it's not the part of us that's in the driver's seat, right? We're really just, what do I do? The answer to that is be still. That's a doing. That's something we can do, is be present and listen. So, yes, I think that it's true on so many different levels that people are feeling a lot. A lot of things are coming to the surface that maybe for the past year we've been kind of pushing down. And it's not even, again, like we talked about at the beginning of this conversation, it's like that collective unconscious is now moving, that wave is moving through, and we're in a place where we have to feel these things that we've tried to suppress and cope with for the change. And so the more we say that, the more we understand that this is supposed to happen. I think a lot of us want to hear, like, is this supposed to be happening? Is something, am I going against the grain? No. Yes, it's supposed to be happening. No, you're not going against the grain. The more you accept what is, and the fact that it's supposed to be uncomfortable, the less resistance and less like pain. Not saying pain will go away, but you're going to like dull the edges a little when we're just in acceptance of this is where we are. This is where we're meant to be, is in the uncomfortable, in the pain, so we can create change.
Right. And it's not forever. This is just part of the journey. The pain is not forever. And if we've avoided it for a while, and as you said, we're such a doing culture. We're such a what'd you do today? And, did you check off all the boxes today? And what did you accomplish today? And that sense of just being and breathing has not been acceptable. But there's actually a lot of power in that. And you can shift more with your being and your presence and your breath than maybe we really have understood.
Yes, I totally agree. Because and I think innately highly sensitive people know that. Like, I just need a pause. I need a moment to really process either what you've said, what I heard, what I'm observing. Let me pause a little bit. And I know us highly sensitive people, and anyone really, if you just take a pause and assess, you will be more powerful in the action, the really informed action going forward. Like, everything is so important. The pauses, the regeneration, the reclaiming like my energy, your own sovereignty, practicing the power you have and saying, not today, I can't do that today. And I can take the pause. And when I'm ready, I'm going to just be jumping through things like a gazelle, right? Just like ready to go, because you can do things more with more power.
Do you feel like that's a big gift to yourself? We have to allow ourselves to be in that space, and that there's real value in that.
In the space of just observing. Oh yeah. There's so much power in observing. I think that's it. I don't know. I guess for me, it's the introverted individual. I could say extroverted. Sure. I'm sure that they're also observing to some degree, but the person who's just sitting and watching and observing, it's not that we don't know what to say. It's that we're so intentional with what we're about to say. Is it okay? But there's a interesting dynamic too, right? If we're not really quite there yet to know, okay, like, is my word even worthy? Like, is someone even going to hear what I have to say? I know that dynamic lives within highly sensitive people too. But I really do. I'm hopeful, because I've come to the place where I know that my words do matter. They really do make a difference. I've seen it in spiritual circles that it does really matter what I say, and through my own growth. But I wouldn't be able to have bigger power or intention in my words had I not taken the pause to observe.
Right. And observe how you feel, how this is your response, how is this integrating with you? And I'm just going to venture, is this your authentic self? Are these your authentic words? And is this your true integrity and your true energy?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because that would require, all you're saying right now is there's so many layers to it. A big part of it is knowing our boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things that I go over too. We need to understand what are boundaries, number one, and that will help us know where do I start and where do I end.
Mm-hmm.
Whose information or energy or feelings am I perhaps absorbing that aren't really mine?
Mm-hmm.
And the more we know about boundaries, the better we'll be able to assess a room or an experience.
Mm-hmm.
The other layer of it is understanding that you do have value. And I do understand, I'm talking to all the highly sensitive people out there that have negative self-talk, is that I know we've been told that it doesn't matter what we say or that we're crazy. I've been called that before, or have gotten the look of like, but it's because we can assess something and we can see what's coming
Mm-hmm.
before anyone else can
I
see
think
it.
that's really true. Right.
So, in corporate dynamics, that was kind of the thing for me too. It was like, well, no, I can tell how everything is connected. If we choose to do this thing, it's going to affect this department, this person, this role. We could see the whole chain of events unfolding over and over. Like, we see beyond the now.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to acknowledge that for all highly sensitive people that are saying, well, I don't know, does it matter what I have to say? Because I've been told it doesn't matter, or it's too much, or I'm overreacting. That's not real.
Right.
Right.
It's illogical.
It's illogical. What do you mean? I didn't feel that. Oh, she didn't say it. She didn't mean that. No, people like you. They like you. And I'm like, no, I can tell that there's friction. I know. You don't need to. And I had to arrive at the place because evidence would come later for me. It would come later. Or the thing I predicted 6 months ago played out exactly as I told everyone. Had they just taken a pause, listened. But it's about finding that security and legitimacy within myself. But I had to go through this type of conflict and simultaneously going through other layers of healing. Like, I really needed to come back to myself over the years. I had to undo or separate from myself from dynamics and relationships that were not in alignment. And sometimes those things or those individuals, I didn't quite know why. It was a frequency thing. I couldn't make sense as to why it felt like I wasn't growing. I was feeling more restrictive. So I had to peel away from those dynamics and relationships. And as I started to do more of the undoing, the more I was understanding myself, just like COVID. COVID was like the ultimate moment where I was like, oh my gosh, that was the beginning of me, like, highly sensitive person. What? Oh, I'm going to say this. Highly sensitive people have a tendency of, when people are watching us do something, we get nervous or shaky, or and it's not that we don't know what we're doing. It's the overstimulation. Like, there's energy kind of coming towards us. Mm-hmm. So we're having to like process that. And then it's hard to explain because it's like an energetic thing, but being observed is difficult for us.
It's why you numb yourselves sometimes. It's easier. Gee, if I have a glass of champagne, then I can jump on that stage.
Yes,
because you're feeling everybody's feelings and the energy of the room and the energy of everybody, and the eyes are on you. So it's not just that; it's that their energy is on you. So how do you sort of find your space within all of that?
Yes, and I've been sober now I'm coming up on my 4th year. Oh my God, in 2 days. Thank you. Awesome. And so it's a whole other world of like trying to be on, leading wedding ceremonies is something I do. Yay. And having to be up there and like, so there's so many things that I need to do to prepare even more, but I also need to accept the fact that I'm going to be shaky, but my breathing pattern's going to change. Like, okay, so what can I do before that? Okay. A lot of it has to do with my relationship with my guides and the other side, making sure I say a prayer. And connecting with them. Sometimes I light a candle before I go out in public to be able to do that and like anchor in, because my subconscious can at least carry that when I'm doing the prayer. Prayer is a subconscious programming and also conscious, but it's two things being related to one another. So I'm able to do that. Let me say a prayer before I go out into public and speak in public. At the same time, I'm a preparer. I have to write it out. I have to have all the details, bullet points, and I also need to give room to the possibility that it's not going to be exactly as I planned.
Right.
I need to come to the acceptance. It's not going to, and it's okay, because that's magic and ceremony.
Right.
You have to give space to spirit. You have to give space to the possibility that something else is acting here. It's a co-creative thing. So those are like the main things.
Let's just say you're an actor and they're always nervous before, but that's your role, is to be an actor, to entertain or to educate or to share something. So it's common to feel that way, and perhaps just this allowing ourselves to be in that nervous space, to be not perfect, to, mess up. I mean, that's some of the fun and fun parts of being in live entertainment, or to be, as you say, when you're doing a wedding, officiating at a wedding, which is wonderful. I'm sure just your energy and presence is really magical because you're allowing it to be.
There's a deep relationship with who I'm creating ceremony for, their guides. I mean, the people that are finding me is because they connect with my morals and my spirituality. So ancestors are always involved, and it's co-creative. And I just did a ceremony in Joshua Tree, and there's a relationship with the land there. So that was part of the room too. I asked permission to the land to see if can we do this ceremony? Are we welcomed? I am acknowledging you. But just to add the layers of those things, but I also needed to prepare and put all the bullet points and what's this and what's that, and asking all the questions to be sure I know where to pivot in the ceremony. So if that is supportive to you as highly sensitive people, to make a list, to write it out, yes, but hold it loosely. Do that, hold it loosely, and give space to the possibility that it's not going to go exactly right, because that's you in relationship with other.
I think this is so interesting that this is happening right now, that you've really developed this methodology. And I'm going to argue at some point that it's not just a personality trait. I feel like this is something that epigenetically can be passed along, and that I'm curious if you felt crossover with autism, ADHD, Asperger's. Some of these terms are going to be outdated really soon, but do you feel a crossover with that at all? And some of these things are the result of things out of our control, perhaps. I'm not sure, but let's just focus on that. Is there a crossover between highly sensitive people and those other aspects?
So I'm going to say one statement that I think is kind of going to lead into this other part, is that I want to be clear. I want to make it clear that not all empaths are highly sensitive, but all highly sensitive people are empaths. Oh, cool. Okay. So you might come across somebody who's like very empathic, but does not need the time to regenerate, take the time, the depth of processing isn't really there, but they just can easily go deeply into empathizing with somebody, and may pick up emotions on being able to relive the emotion and the experience through their own mind and neurological pathways, and so creates some kind of invigoration or emotional experience for them, but may have the absence of that depth of processing, overstimulation, can probably carry on the day and keep going. So those two things, I wanted to say that because I think that also leads into, like we'll use ADHD as an example. Through research, there has been found some form of connection between highly sensitivity and ADHD, a connection, but not the same. And what they have found is that it's very likely that people that have developed ADHD were first highly sensitive and developed ADHD as a coping mechanism.
Fascinating. Really?
Okay.
That's
Yes.
fascinating.
So there is an overlap. There is a connection here. Absolutely. Even in my own family, I live in a home with autistic individuals. So, and some of us suspect that we are neurodivergent, which is different.
Sure.
It's, right? Highly sensitive people, I would not say are neurotypical. They're in their own little bucket. They're in a different bucket than a neurodivergent individual, although there are similarities in how we might experience it. But I think what might be missing, again, is depth of processing, emotional sensitivity of moving through things. And what I do find is the overstimulation does happen with autistic individuals, and why they need to, there's family members of mine. I give me a hug, the quickest hug. They can't even be held fully and totally. But there's also the overlap of these very spiritual experiences, very likely between an autistic individual. A lot of ADHD individuals that I've met and come across are friends, very spiritually connected.
Very.
Clients of mine are highly sensitive and ADHD. So that is very much part of the conversation. I'm very versed in life experience with these individuals. But there is that connection. And I think it's really important to see that it's possible that we've developed these, not autism, but ADHD was developed within because there was overstimulation.
Right.
And that we needed to develop this ADHD. I've been, it's funny, somebody has told me, my mentor for highly sensitivity, where I did my coaching accreditation program, she says, possibly ADD, me. And I had a reading done by an astrologer, and she does playing cards. So there's like playing cards, and she pulled it, I forget what it's called. So she did an astrology reading and she pulled cards. She's like, oh, you have the ADHD card. Like, that's my main card. She's like, it's external, but it's not internal. So external, although it feels very internal, let me tell you.
I'm sure. I know.
But there are times, even just recently when it comes to family, I find myself escaping the conversation because I'm being overstimulated. I cannot focus because there's so much emotional charge from what I'm listening to that I've needed to escape. And there was some trauma stuff that came up that I'm revisiting and healing through right now. Another layer never stops. It's
never stops.
Never stops. It's like, okay, we're going to move into the next layer now. I'm like, oh, great. Here we go. And noticing that certain memories that maybe a family member has from a very traumatic event, I remember the very beginning of it, and they remember the entire thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally left because I don't remember the rest of it.
Because
I mean, that even goes
the room. You exited the experience. I get it.
Done. I couldn't. It was done. I overstimulation. Cannot remember. And this even goes into, I think in our last conversation when I was on Soul Fam last time, I kind of tapped into the ET experience.
Yes.
Okay.
A little bit.
Yeah. And I also have traumatic experiences through ET encounters that completely blacked out a lot of the memory as a child. And I'm moving through some regression, not a hypnotherapy regression to revisit that. And that is also very similar. And now all of a sudden these are coming to the surface and I'm remembering them. And at the same
other interview.
It's a whole other interview. But
that's so interesting.
But it's interesting because what else is interesting, the link here is, okay, so I'm definitely a high sensitive person. There's a specific, I'm going to add this to my resources page on my website, is that there's a specific test that can give you a percentile of how far on the spectrum of highly sensitivity you are. I was pretty high. I think I was like 98%. Pretty much up there. Sure. And you can go and check it out and see, although the checklist is really helpful, this other test is like, wow, really detailed and awesome. So I'll be adding that soon. Cool. I'm going to be building resources on my website for that. But, there's autistic individuals in my family. My mom passed away from a brain tumor, and she had a tumor in her pituitary gland.
No.
A lot of brain stuff. And, this ET and autism, right? This kind of overlap of things, of what's happening there. You'll hear stories. I've gone down the wormhole. I'm guilty of going down that wormhole now that I've done a few regressions with my own experience. And there's overlap there too. Again, going back to indigenous cultures, people that are sensitive, having relationship with extraterrestrials or those that came from the stars out in space to come and create mankind. Like, there's stories over and over of things that have happened just like that, to tell the story of how we became on this planet. So I know I went everywhere there,
No,
but
I love it. I love it.
It's so connected. It's so connected.
It is. I want to be sure that we talk a little bit more. I'm dying to hear about that, but we'll have to do that another time.
We will.
So let's talk a little bit about how to manage ourselves as HSP, or if you acknowledge that that's it, and or it's a part of you, then what's a few key ways to sort of manage that? And I often hear people who are like, wow, I was just in this situation and I felt this, and I'm recognizing this, and they sort of step away, but they don't necessarily do anything. Maybe you don't have to do anything, but perhaps be a different way. Is how do we kind of work with ourselves in a world that's sort of on the cusp of accepting and understanding all of this?
It's a good question. So I think that, at least my approach with clients, is not management is part of the work, because you're not going to immediately just change, right? We need to, meaning we definitely can't change our environment necessarily. We can to a certain degree, but no one's going to just be like, I'm going to quit that job immediately as we're working together. Like, that's just not going to be a thing. I want to be kind and understanding with everyone's life and structure. So management is definitely going to be part of the conversation. How can I manage? But that's not the end goal. The end goal is to really understand ourselves first from the inside and move out. Because when we build self-compassion and self-understanding, then we can really strengthen our voice to really express what we need. And that is a form of management, right? Because it says, actually, I'll give you an example. Corporate office, my desk moved from one place to another, and it was a very high traffic section of the office, and my back was towards the traffic. And I immediately was like, I cannot sit here. This is going to be way too much for me, especially the backside of my head, psychic stuff, traffic, overstimulation, and also the dynamic of being watched all day.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly.
So because I understood how I function and my traits, and what was really important to me too is that no matter what I do, I want to do it well. So in order for me to do my job well, I need to be sure that I'm getting what I need and I'm set up for success. But the only way I know that is by knowing my traits and knowing where I thrive in a limiting environment, right? So I had to speak up. I had to be an advocate for myself. And I cannot be a good advocate of myself if I don't know what I need. So I had to say, can we please move my desk from this place to another? I need to be sure that I am away from traffic and as secluded as possible. I need to be away, so that way I have the choice to move into a meeting room or move into groups and retreat when I can. Okay. So that way I can operate and function in an environment that's very, very stimulating still, but I at least can have some form of management in that period. Now, I do understand that we don't always have the best in working environments, but it doesn't hurt to try and to speak up and to come from a place of, because highly sensitive people, one of our main things is we want to do a job well, no matter what we do. It is so important to us. How we do things, everything is so intentional. Everything is so, we want to be sure that we're doing things well. And so if we lead with that, our company, our job, or the people we're working with, they're going to want, if they have the same goals of success, doing things right, and are in alignment with what our morals and values are, I think they really will welcome that conversation and say, okay, well, what do you need? Where can I move? Can I switch seats with someone else? It's just a little too distracting. And we can use words that others understand, and it's just about learning the terminology. But that's a really good example of like management, because you're still in the environment, but it all really starts with, I need to know my traits. How do I thrive? What are my limitations? What am I doing? Maybe I need to take less coffee, drink less stimulants so I can go into, right? So these are kind of like the things that we can help with management, right? But I will say this, that for people that are highly sensitive, that might have ADD or ADHD, coffee is very helpful. It might be really helpful for us to focus more. But again, everyone's different, right? So it's really about learning those things. So management is, I think, a great thing to have. It's important, especially even for people like me who have a spiritual business. I'm going to be going out in public. I'm going to be interacting. I'm on a podcast. What can I do? I made sure that my calendar was completely clear, that I got enough rest last night, and that the rest of the day I'm going to just take a walk, take it easy, and creating a way that can help me thrive. So it's about learning what's within our power, even in a space or dynamic or culture that doesn't allow us to. We still have power. It's really about finding where our power is and advocating for ourselves. But we can't advocate if we don't know how we specifically function. One highly sensitive person is not the same as the other. That's the other thing I've learned. We have a lot of similarities. When I'm speaking to my clients, I affirm their experiences because there are similarities, so many, but how they approach life, how they live life, who they work with, it's going to be totally different. So it is really about learning about those things. Now, managing, at the end of the day, when we have self-compassion and we really understand ourselves, then we can also know what to take ownership of and what doesn't belong to us. If I know myself and I know that this is my functioning and I bring it up to somebody, my boss, my friend, my colleague, my coworker, and their response is really not lining up, then we can really say, this is not about me. This is really about them. And that is that self-love, self-acceptance journey. So those things really do overlap. But management is something that is going to be really important before we go into a full-on transformation and like moving into a world that's completely different. It needs to go side by side because transformation, change doesn't happen immediately. It's a life journey. So I hope I answered the question.
And maybe the world's going to change a little. I have my hopes. I think we're going to find out.
We're on our way.
We're on our way. I think we're finding out that just being, and I don't mean to just sit under a tree all day, which might be all right, but there's a lot of power. We're going to switch ourselves. We're going to stop being such a doing culture. We'll still do, but there really is power within ourselves, in our sovereignty as individuals, and then as a collective, energetically, consciously, and really understanding ourselves. We don't have to all fit into a box.
Yes, I think
the same box.
I want to add to that. I want to piggyback on that too. It's like, yes, we're on our way, and destruction needs to happen first. There needs to be a falling apart, and we can start building the new simultaneously. I don't see why not. But the destruction and the falling apart is on purpose to clear. That's Saturn, to clear the way to that death is going to just be richness to the soil that we're going to be planting the new, and we're already doing it. We're there doing it. You're doing it here. Everyone on this podcast listening, it's like we're part of this work. So
exactly,
let's keep it up, right?
Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of power in just you don't have to be super vocal. You don't have to be out there, with your signs and anything. It's just be you. It's good. It's all super good.
That's the power too. I mean, everything has its purpose, right? Everyone has their place. Even the people that are in denial and don't know, like, it needs to be there. There needs to be a mirror, right? Reflecting back at us. And yes, it's true. For some of us, it is about being in conversation and keep moving the information out there to people who are ready to listen.
It's beautiful. Tell me how people can get in touch with you. I know we could go on all day. I hope you'll come back again. I got to hear some more about these ET experiences. And I just bet our audience has the same experience too. But we'll get back to that. How do people get in touch with you? How do I become a client for you for HSP? How do I book you for upcoming engagements or speaking opportunities or weddings or however it might be?
Yeah, great question. Thank you for asking. So ixteaul.com is my website. I've just revamped it. It's really built for the highly sensitive. It's meant to be just really clear and soft to enter and just take a journey step by step. Because I'm a highly sensitive person too, I can't really work with a booking system. People just book, and calendar filled. I have to be able to manage. Because of that, I ask for people to go ahead on my website. There's a form that you will complete at the bottom that will shoot an email to me, and we can begin to now put things on the calendar. My services page lists all the different options. If you're not ready to move into something that's really in depth, I have one-on-ones that are doing a tarot reading that is specific for highly sensitive people, all nurtured in that way. I have the Hands of Isis, which is my energy work to help highly sensitive individuals come back into recalibration because we are prone to overstimulation. This will be a really good entryway for people to kind of say and understand and return back to a equilibrium that really feels like themselves. It's a really good place to start. I have ancestor work too, because just like we talked about today, ancestry, the patterns, all the compartmentalization, the fragmentation, we can kind of work on building that back in on an energetic level. But the mentorship pathways are really the new ones for me that I'm super excited about. And the main one is the Wings of Nekbet, which is individuals can move in through a 3-month journey of us meeting roughly about 3 times a month, includes energy work. And we go into the journey of understanding who am I as a highly sensitive person. We're committing to a journey together. And there's a payment plan. I'm open to sliding scales as well, because I want to be sure that I'm nurturing everybody and anyone. And I'm open to discussion about what that sliding scale could be for you. So there's that. And I also have sacred ceremony page on my website that you can go to, because I'm also versed in ceremony. I'm also versed in funerals, so life celebration, that's also a thing. But weddings are also a wonderful thing I love to be a part of, and you can book me through there. Again, there's a contact form you can fill out. People fill it out. It shoots me an email, and we could start conversation, and book consultations too are available as well. Contact form is also something else if you wanted to get me for conversation, a panel, or come on a podcast. I'm open to doing that as well. So that's the best way. My website, IG, also Instagram is super easy. I'm really engaging in that space right now.
That's beautiful. I love that you're really approaching this from a whole different level. It's not just here's Calendly and we'll book, which is great. But I love that you're really allowing your emotions and resonance and your breath to sort of be present as you and your clients move through all of this together.
Yes, I'm so excited because then it makes me show up with my clients like fully charged and really authentic or true to where I'm feeling. And I show up fully centered and ready to work with you. So it's in service to my community as well, the way I've structured it.
Beautiful. I'm going to ask one more question. What has been the best part of this journey for you so far with HSP?
Okay. This is a good one. I love it. Thank you for asking. The best part has probably been the worst parts. In the last, over a decade of being amongst communities, spiritual communities on my own journey, I've encountered so many beautiful, so many contrasting communities. I've met beautiful leaders, and the opposite as well. And as a highly sensitive person, I think what was important about these environments or these encounters where I wasn't accepted, or I was asked to bypass my emotions, or if I was too much, because you would think in spiritual communities, oh, they're going to accept, I'm a highly sensitive person, I should be welcomed. But I have found that in these spiritual communities, what's lacking is the education for people just like us, highly sensitives. Because I've encountered leaders who have told me to bypass the emotion, to transcend the emotion, to put the emotions in another room. And because of that same wound is being touched or ruptured yet again with these comments of making me feel smaller, it has really catapulted me into this next phase of building community where we are informed, that we do know, and here to nurture the highly sensitive person's experience, because we are so prone to transcendental experiences so easily that we don't need what I think in spiritual communities, a lot of them still have patriarchal systems within them. And I'm hoping to be someone who is building the new, where we nurture the highly sensitive, where the emotions are completely welcomed. And you can fall apart, for lack of a better term. Yeah. You can cry. And I've been the person who, in these circles, who's having the most emotional experience, the one that's falling apart. They're looking at me like I'm from some foreign world, and in some way I kind of am. But because people aren't educated, they don't even know that I'm now the scapegoat within a community that I would think I would be more welcomed. So I think that is probably the most juicy, most like diamond-based experience, are these little nuggets that I've learned along the way. And what is feeding what I'm building right now is a safe space for highly sensitive individuals.
Wow. That is wonderful and powerful. Super proud of you. And I'm so glad I've gotten to sort of be a part of this journey. And I feel like this is a direction that we all kind of need to go. It's very cool. Very, very cool.
Thank you. Your support means so much. And thanks to the Soul Fam community for listening in, and ready to welcome you into my arms and to Ixte community. And I have some workshops coming up in Joshua Tree this summer, retreats that are building also. So if you want to be part of my newsletter, I welcome you to do that. That's the quickest way to know when these things are launching. Again, they're built for highly sensitive individuals, going deeper. And I have a 3-part series that's happening this summer. And each workshop can be experienced on its own, or you can do the series. So anyway, just know these are the things that I'm building out there for us.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I will list all of that in the description below. And I thank you. I feel really honored. And I'm so grateful that we've had the chance to really listen and hear and sort of experience what you're doing right now, or what you're being right now. And that there's this whole other aspect of us that you're welcoming and opening us up to.
It's really such an honor, really, to be here and to do that. So thank you again.
Okay. And head to Joshua Tree this summer. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, come on. I'm here waiting for you guys.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Soul Fam podcast. Be sure to tune in to every episode where we dive into a different rabbit hole of the known and unknown to empower you in conscious living and exploration of the greater universe. We hope you leave each episode with a little stardust in your hair and inspiration in your heart. With love from your Soul Fam.